Imagine a sci-fi show that had the potential to rival the X-Files in the 1990s. A show built on one of the most exciting concepts in television, the idea of traveling to alternate Earths where every decision in history could have gone differently. Now imagine that same show slowly collapsing from the inside. Sliders is remembered today as a cult classic, but behind the camera, it was a storm of studio interference, angry actors, budget fights, bitter rewrites, and a creative vision that was changed so many times that even the cast stopped recognizing the show they were filming. This is the story of how a brilliant idea became one of the most chaotic productions in 90s science fiction television. Sliders began with Tracy Tormé, a writer who had worked on Star Trek The Next Generation and who was fascinated with the idea of parallel universes. He imagined a show where every week the characters stepped into a new world shaped by a different twist in history. Maybe the British won the Revolutionary War, maybe penicillin was never invented, maybe a small change in politics or technology reshaped everything. It was a limitless playground, and Fox bought the idea quickly. From the start, it was intended to be a smart, thoughtful series that explored real questions about society and the butterfly effect of human decisions. Casting the show became one of the most important early decisions. Jerry O'Connell landed the lead role as Quinn Mallory. He was young, charismatic, and fit the curious, nerdy inventor perfectly. Sabrina Lloyd was chosen as Wade Wells. She brought a grounded warmth to the group, and her character was meant to be Quinn's moral anchor. Cleveland Derricks auditioned for Rembrandt Brown, the crying man, and originally the network wanted a loud, over-the-top rapper stereotype. Derricks pushed back and insisted on playing Rembrandt with dignity. His performance reshaped the entire character. John Rhys Davies, best known for Indiana Jones, joined as Professor Maximilian Arturo, giving the cast a veteran actor who added weight and authority to every scene. Production began in Vancouver for season 1. The crew relied heavily on practical effects, unique set designs, and miniatures. Each new episode required a new world with a fresh look, which made Sliders more expensive than most network sci-fi shows of the time. That pressure exposed tensions almost immediately. John Rhys Davies, who believed in serious, high-quality writing, frequently clashed with the writing team. He complained openly that some scripts were illiterate and seemed to be written by people who didn't understand science fiction. His frustration only grew as filming continued, and his comments became so well known that the writers began avoiding him on set. Fox executives took notice of the show but quickly started interfering. They believed the audience wanted something closer to a light action comedy, not a serious exploration of alternate histories, so they began demanding rewrites, simplifying storylines, and pushing episodes with more humor. Whenever Tormé and the writers delivered something complex or political, Fox often rejected it. Several episodes were completely reworked to fit the tone the network wanted. Behind the scenes, this caused constant tension. Tormé fought to preserve the show he created, while the studio pushed it in the opposite direction. As season 2 began, those problems multiplied. Fox cut the budget, which forced the team to reuse sets, reduce location shoots, and rely more on monster costumes instead of detailed world building. Writers began to quit due to the stress, and Tormé was increasingly frustrated with what the show was becoming. Fox also chose to air episodes out of order, causing continuity problems and confusing viewers. Something as simple as a character arc or storyline no longer made sense because episodes were shuffled around without regard for the plot. Meanwhile, tensions among the cast were rising. Long working hours, limited rewrites, and episodes that felt rushed created an environment where actors felt unheard. John Rhys Davies openly talked about leaving. Sabrina Lloyd felt her character was being pushed aside in favor of more action centered around Quinn. And Jerry O'Connell now found himself balancing his role as the show's face while dealing with network decisions he had no control over. Sliders was still performing well enough to continue, but the atmosphere on set was growing more toxic. By the end of season 2, the cast and crew believed they had survived the worst of the studio interference. They assumed the show would stabilize as Fox renewed it again, but they were wrong. Season 3 would not just change Sliders, it would nearly destroy it. More rewrites, more network control, and a shift in tone so drastic that actors began quitting and fans no longer recognized the series they once loved. What followed was one of the most dramatic unravelings in 90s television. Season 3 marked a turning point that the cast and creative team never recovered from. Fox executives demanded a major shift in tone, pushing Sliders into more of an action-adventure series rather than the thoughtful, alternate history show it was meant to be. Instead of exploring worlds shaped by political or historical differences, the network wanted more monsters, more explosions, and more marketable stories that looked good in promos. Overnight, the series transformed from intellectual sci-fi to something closer to a weekly chase story with creatures and stunt sequences. The writing staff struggled to keep up with these demands. Episodes were rewritten on the fly, budgets continued to drop, and the schedule grew more demanding as Fox wanted faster turnarounds and bigger visual moments than the production could reasonably deliver. For the cast, the stress became overwhelming. John Rhys Davies was the first to reach his breaking point. He had been unhappy with the writing almost since the beginning, but season 3 pushed him past the limit. He openly criticized the new direction, calling it shallow and poorly conceived. Eventually, he chose to leave the show, and his character, Professor Arturo, was written out in a dramatic and controversial episode that fans still debate today. But the trouble didn't stop there. Sabrina Lloyd, who played Wade, saw her role shrinking dramatically. She went from being a core member of the original cast to being pushed to the sidelines in favor of action-driven stories focused on Quinn. Behind the scenes, tension between cast members and producers grew to the point that communication broke down entirely. By the end of the season, Fox made it clear they wanted Sabrina Lloyd gone. Instead of giving Wade a proper exit, the writers created a storyline where she was captured by a group of alien invaders and taken away, effectively removing her from the show without closure. The next major change came when Fox decided to bring Jerry O'Connell's real-life brother, Charlie O'Connell, into the cast as Quinn's newly discovered brother Colin. This decision divided fans and cast members alike. Some felt it added fresh dynamic, while others believed it signaled even more studio meddling. Sliders was now moving in a direction far from Tracy Tormé's original vision, and even further from what John Rhys Davies and Sabrina Lloyd had signed up for. Tracy Tormé, fed up with the constant interference, quit the show publicly and criticized Fox for destroying what he had created. In interviews, he accused the studio of forcing shallow storylines and ignoring the deeper sci-fi potential. He described Sliders as a show that had been taken over by people who didn't understand it. His departure marked the end of any remaining creative protection for the series. Ratings began to drop. Fans were confused by the tone shifts and upset about the cast changes. Fox finally decided to cancel Sliders after season 3, but that wasn't the end. In an unexpected twist, the Sci Fi Channel decided to revive the show. It was, at the time, one of their biggest acquisitions. Sci-Fi promised to return Sliders to its more serious roots, focusing again on world building, alternate history, and deeper storytelling. But reality didn't match the promise. The budget was even smaller than before, and the writing staff had to stretch every dollar to build new worlds that looked believable. Jerry O'Connell stayed on for a while, but eventually he chose to leave as well. The pay was lower, the schedule was harder, and the direction of the show no longer aligned with the original promise he believed in. After his departure, the writers restructured the show yet again. A new character, Mallory, played by Robert Floyd, became the merged version of Quinn and another Slider. This bizarre twist confused fans and became one of the most controversial story arcs in the entire series. Sabrina Lloyd, who had been written off seasons earlier, refused to return. Cleveland Derricks became the only original cast member to appear in every season, carrying the show through its final years almost single-handedly. The cast turnover and constant changes in tone during the sci-fi era made it difficult for Sliders to regain its original fan base or find new viewers. By the time the final episode aired, the show ended on a cliffhanger that never received resolution. Cleveland Derricks later revealed that the ending felt unfinished because the creators were promised a continuation that never materialized. Fans waited for years hoping someone would revive the story, but it remained frozen in time. In the years that followed, Sliders developed a new life as a cult classic. Fans rediscovered it through reruns and streaming, praising the brilliance of its early seasons and debating the strange decisions that unraveled the show later on. Cast members have spoken more openly about their experiences, with John Rhys Davies and Tracy Tormé both expressing disappointment over what Sliders became, while also acknowledging how passionate the fans remain. The legacy of Sliders is a story of what could have been. It was a show filled with potential, built on one of the most exciting sci-fi concepts ever put on television. But behind the scenes, it became a battle between creativity and corporate control, between deep storytelling and shallow market demands. Sliders is remembered today not just for the adventures across alternate Earths, but for the fascinating and chaotic story of how it was made, how it was changed, and how it ultimately slipped away from the vision that once made it great. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed learning something new today, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment telling us what you thought of this story.